What's up, Scoop Podcast? I'm your host, Erica Kruppen, and on today's episode, we're going to talk about spring rush. Okay, now listen, this is not going to be your ultimate guide to spring rush. This isn't going to be your end all be all. If you listen to this podcast, you're going to know everything about spring rush. If you're looking for the ultimate guide, you're going to have to go follow somebody else because I, on the other hand, just like to give you the information that comes off my head and things that I think about. I'm like, oh, I should talk about that today. Because listen, if I had to put together the ultimate guide or together an ultimate guide for anything, I would never create any content. So you're going to get what you get. So if you like that, stay tuned. But before we hop into like the meat of what spring rush is, I really wanted to touch base about Jobber. This whole entire podcast is essentially powered by Jobber, sponsored by Jobber. I don't think I'd be able to keep this podcast going if it wasn't for Jobber and for you guys, the folks that decide to use my link, decide to purchase Jobber and integrate it into your small business. Not only are you helping yourself out, you're making your business more streamlined, but you're also helping me be able to produce this because I know it's tacky to talk about, but we're business owners. We're in business. We can talk about money. It's okay to talk about it. Doing a podcast, running a YouTube channel, all of that can be cheap, or you can hire people out. And I just so happen to want this podcast to be as good as I can make it with the resources that I have and the people I'm able to bring in to help me. And recently I've been noticing that I haven't really been talking about Jobber as much because I honestly take it for granted. I don't realize how much I need and I rely on Jobber to help me run my business because it's so effortless. It's there, it's reliable, it does what it needs to do. There's always something new to learn. If I'm having an issue, I'm able to reach out to their resource center and they're able to help me get back on track. And if they're having issues on their end, they send out notifications letting us know like, hey, we're having technical difficulties. We got the team, we're working on it. And then they also send out messages letting us know that the issue's been resolved or how long it's going to take, which is really nice. But I take it for granted until I'm talking to another business owner that doesn't have a CRM. They're not using Jabber. They're not really using much of anything other than their brain and pen and paper. And I often think about those days when I was operating my business off of a Google Sheet or off of a notebook. And at that time, that's all I thought that I needed until I started to grow. And it's the saying like you don't know until you know, or you don't know what you don't know. But because I do the dog waste removal and I have a lot of landscapers, especially this time around the season, that start reaching out to me that want to start networking, which I love networking with other small business owners. I love chit chatting with landscapers to figure out like if our schedules would jive and if the way that we run our business jives as well. Because I do take that into consideration. So when I have a landscaper or another service provider reach out to me and they're like, hey, we could promote each other, we could refer each other out. I do have some questions. Like, I want to know how they're sending out their invoicing, how they do their billing, how they do their customer communication, how all that's set up. Because I've had landscapers tell me that they're going to hire me, right? They're going to have me do the services. They're going to collect payment from the homeowner, and then they're going to go ahead and cut me a check. I'm not doing it. I'm not. That's not happening. Like, I'm not doing that. Mainly because I don't want to have to be waiting on money. I don't want no part of it. I also don't want somebody to send me a Venmo. Oh, I can just send you the money via Venmo. Or I can give you cash and then I can write you out a paper receipt. I'm not doing that stuff either. I'm talking to the business owner and they're telling me about the struggles or telling me the issues that they're having with customers because I listen to this stuff because I want to pre-qualify somebody that I'm working with. And they tell me a situation about this one customer, let's example, right? An example, they have this customer, they onboarded them, and they were supposed to do like a part of the property because that's what they were quoted for, right? But then there was this other part of the property that they were supposed to trim, and after they were done with the job, the homeowner was like, "Oh, you were supposed to get this." And they're like, "No, it wasn't." She's like, "Oh yeah, you told me verbally that you guys were going to take care of that." This person just so happened to not do a change of order. They didn't have any of that written down on the quote, so there's no paper trail. Because of that, I can't work with that person because they're not organized, they're not documenting property, and they're not creating the proper paper trail to be able to protect themselves later on down the road when there's issues. They're not forward thinking. And you might be like, "Oh, that seems like a lot of work." Yeah, it is a lot of work. But then when we have issues in our business, when somebody says that, with poop scooping it's a little bit different, but we were supposed to scoop a certain area that, maybe they're, say for instance, the property doesn't have a gate, right? It's just open plan, and you're supposed to scoop this part of the yard, but then the homeowner's like, "Oh, well, the dog goes outside of the boundaries and actually poops on a partial of the neighbor's yard." Well, you haven't been scooping the neighbor's yard, right? And then the homeowner's like, "Well, I told you that they poop on the neighbor's yard." And you're like, "Well, that wasn't really in the quote." You can see on the paper, because you documented it, there was no extra the spaces to scoop because they approved the quote, they signed the quote, and they sent it over to you. And then you pushed it through, approved it, scheduled it right from the quote. So I know that's a lot, and I say all this to say that if you're not using a CRM and you have issues with customers, if you keep having issues that keep coming up that sounds similar to that, give Jobber a try. Okay? Check it out. See if you like it. It's a robust software. There's room to grow. There's a lot of options, a lot of ways to customize, and you should give it a try. Spring rush, baby. What is spring rush? Great question. Spring rush happens after the winter time, typically in the Midwest or areas that are snowy. What happens during the winter is we get a bunch of snow, usually, but we have not gotten very much snow this year. It's been a very, very mild winter. So usually you get a bunch of snow, the snow is covering the ground, and then when the snow melts, all heck breaks loose because people haven't been in their backyard looking at the poop, scooping the poop, thinking about the poop. But they're like, "Uh-oh, my dog has muddy paws. Is it mud? Is it poop? I don't know what's going on out there. My kids, is it mud? Is it poop? I don't know what's going on. Oh no, the landscaper is going to be firing up soon, but they're not going to scoop all this dog poop. They're not going to mow this lawn if we got all this dog poop back there." So they either know about our services, so they look us up, they reach out to us, or they start scooping their yard and they get like partially through it, because this has happened a lot of times where they started scooping like part of it and they're like, "Psh, I don't want to do this." And then they look on Google, "Is there somebody that scoops dog poop?" Or they ask in a buy sell trade group, or they seen a vehicle and then they reach out to us and they say, "Do you scoop dog poop? I would like a quote for dog poop." And you're like, "Okay, great. Now listen, these cleans can be nasty." People could say, like, "Oh, it's just been a couple of months." But in my mind, I'm always thinking the worst. I was like, you know what? They have not scooped this poop since November. That's what I'm thinking. They have not scooped this dog poop since November when it started getting cold. So November, December, January, February, March. So we're looking at 5 months worth of dog poop that's been rained on, that's been snowed on, that's been sleeted on, that's been frozen, that's been trampled on. It's not an easy peasy clean. So if you have somebody that reaches out to you and they're wanting you to scoop this dog poop for $50 or something very inexpensive, just know that you should be charging more. In the beginning, when I first started my business, I charged $50 per spring clean. It didn't matter if we were in that backyard for 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours. I didn't know any different, but I was just trying to learn. So I did. I charged $50 per clean. Now, at this time, my spring cleans are starting at $110 for one dog, standard size yard, 1/8 of an acre or less, and they go up. Some of the cleans are up into the $200-300 range. It just depends on how much. Now, am I getting as much approval as I was when my cleans were $50? We're doing less work, but we're making more money. And so that's kind of a mind shift change that I had to have in the beginning. And this is kind of how I'm looking at it is people that are doing it less expensive, they're going to fill up fast, right? And they're probably going to get to a point where they have too much work and they can't take on anymore. So then those people are going to come over to me and then I'm going to hit them with a higher bill and we're going to be able to take care of it. We're going to do a really good job. We're going to do a super thorough job and they're going to be happy. And then the goal is to convert them over into a weekly service or into a reoccurring service. That's the goal with every single customer that we come encounter with. We want to try to convert them into a subscription because that is the bread and butter. That's our bread and butter, okay? And you definitely want to try to get as many reviews as possible during this time because you get like an influx of customers. There's more opportunity to get reviews. So, springtime is very, very important to our business. Spring rush is a time where we're going to potentially make a lot of money in a short period of time. Spring rush usually only lasts about 6 to 8, about 6 to 8 weeks. It's very quick, it's very intense. You want to get people in as quick and as soon as possible because when somebody's like, hey, I need my dog poop picked up, they don't want to wait 2, 3 weeks. There's no way they're going to wait 2, 3 months. It's, can you get me in 2 or 3 days? Because it's an urgency at that point. Their backyard is muddy, it is poopy, it is nasty, their dogs are rolling around in it, they're coming in the house. It is a urgent matter. And so you want to treat it as an urgent matter. So you want to be prepared to work sun up to sundown. You want to be prepared to quote them properly so you're able to make a hefty amount of money. And then you want to have a strong conversion plan. So when they reach out, they just want a one time clean. You thank them for allowing you to serve them and ask them if they would be interested in maintaining their yard for regular recurring service. You offer weekly or bi weekly service with their type of yard. You prefer X or Y. And then do a follow up. Especially if it's in an area that you really like the yard, you want to grow in that area, make a note, follow up with them, okay? You also want to have a strong game plan to get reviews because like I said, you get a lot of volume during this time, so you're able to build up those reviews. When I first started, I was just manually texting every single customer right after I sent them their invoice. If you enjoyed our service, would you please leave us a well worded 5-star review with the link straight to Google and sent it to them? So all they had to do was click it and leave us a review. Now, I'm using Nice Job, and Nice Job is linked up to Jobber and linked up to my website. So once I close out their job, it automatically sends them a message asking them for a review. So that's super helpful. So I'm able to build up my Google listing and keep that pretty active because Google is very powerful. I believe it's still the most powerful search engine online. So you want to make sure that you're on there and you want to make sure that you're active and you're actively posting pictures to keep it updated. And you want to be taking before and after pictures of your spring cleans, like the before and then how much waste you pulled out afterwards. And this is a great time to create videos, do time lapse videos, get creative. I'm going through like a creative drought right now. Like it's really hard for me to produce content when I'm out there. And so I'm just taking pictures, I'm just taking videos, and I'm like, okay, maybe I'll put something together and then save it, put it on your computer so you have it to use next year. So maybe you can put that stuff together during the winter time and have it ready to rock and roll before spring because springtime, once it's in full effect, is very, very intense and it will take a toll on you. Mentally, I wasn't quite prepared for the stress that comes along with it. The long days, the sun up to sundown, waking up super early, going to bed super late, sending out the quotes, messaging customers, following up with customers, performing the jobs, making sure that we're stocked with the proper amount of supplies. You definitely want to go to your bag supplier or wherever you get your trash bags and just stock up. I'm going to go to Sam's Club and I'm going to buy probably 20 boxes, I would say, about 20 boxes and 200 come in a roll. I think that should be able to get us through spring rush, and maybe we'll have a little bit of leftover. But I don't want to have to be running back and forth to Sam's Club if I don't have to. I'm gonna make sure I'm extra stocked up on sanitation supplies, stocked up on our yellow buckets and rakes just in case something breaks. Because remember, if you have two, you have one. If you have one, you have none. You always want to have extras of everything. Okay, and then me personally, I'm not cleaning my house during spring rush. I'm not doing much of anything. I'm really just focused on work and being like the woman of the house, and that can be quite difficult. So if I have to pay somebody to clean, I will. I'll do that. I have no problem doing that. Why not? It's going to help me out. I'm also not going to be cooking that much. So the easier the meals, my family, my husband knows that they're not getting anything spectacular from me during that time, and they're okay with that. They get it. I'm just not who I normally am during springtime. And it's just important to set those expectations with yourself and with your family. I also think it's really important to have like common verbiage that you send out regularly on a document that you can copy and paste, copy and paste. So if you're sending out quotes and you're always having to type out like, "Hi, Mrs. Smith, here's your quote," blah 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 blah, and it's stuff that you're typing over and over again, just make a template for yourself with responses and things that you're frequently sending out, and then copy and paste that, and then just switch out the name, switch out the date, switch out whatever you need to switch out, so you're not having to repeatedly type the stuff over and over and over again. Also, for your pricing, I have a quick reference pricing sheet right here. I'm not going to show it to you, but this has all of my freaking pricing on it right there. All of it, a quick reference. So if somebody messages me on Facebook and they're like, "Hey, I'm just trying to get a price on what this yard could be," I could ask them a couple questions, and they say one dog, smaller yard, they haven't scooped it in 5 months. I can let them know right away that our price is starting at 110 for this time of the season. So that kind of pre-qualifies them, and they're like, "Oh, no way, that's way too much." Or they're like, "Oh, okay, that sounds good. I'll be like, "All right, well, I'm going to send you over my link through Jobber. You can fill out our onboarding form, and then I'll send you over a proper quote." This way, I'm not taking the time to craft a quote and send it out to them, and they're like, "Oh, I thought this was only going to be like $30 or $60 or whatever." So I have a quick reference sheet of all of my pricing for 2024, and that helps me out because even though I am pretty automated, I'm still doing a lot of manual work. It's very important to spend time in your DMs. It's very important that when you post ads, when you're talking to people, you're engaging, because that's what social media is really lacking right now. And I think this is where I struggled too. I try to automate everything because I just didn't want to deal with it. But it hurt my engagement because social media, you're supposed to be social, you're supposed to be engaging. You can't just post and ghost. You have to engage with your people. And that's something that I need to work on better in 2024, because it has to happen. So you have to be responding back to your DMs. You have to be responding back. Even if you just say like, "Hey, send me a message. I can give you we can talk numbers in the DM." And aside from just your supplies, physically, you're going to want to be able to like prep. So I like to have a massage therapist on deck, because with all that scooping, like your shoulders get very tight and you're hunched over and you're stressed out and your shoulders can be up, and then I know my arm and wrist starts to hurt really bad. This is a physical job. We chose to be in a physically demanding and a laborious job, and so our bodies take a beating, okay? So scheduling a massage is very good for you. Do that. You also want to make sure that you're staying hydrated. Even though it's a little bit cold out, you're still sweating. You still need those electrolytes. You still need to replenish yourself. You're going to want to try to get as much sleep as possible. I know you're like, "Yeah, you have to." You have to try to get some sleep because you can't run on fumes. I know that I made way more mistakes than I should have just because of just careless messages, oversights, all because I was sleep deprived. And so if I need to take a nap, even if it's like a 30-minute nap, I make it happen because I physically can't function if my brain starts to turn to mush. And me personally, when I get tired, it's almost like I'm drunk. I can't formulate words. I can't put sentences together. I'll start slurring my words. And there's been times where my husband's like, "You sound drunk right now." I'm like, "I'm just tired. I just need to take a nap." And I'll lay down, I'll wake up, and he's like, "Yeah, you're way better." I'm like, "I know. My brain just started shutting down on me." No amount of coffee is going to fix that. Just a nap. And like I talked about before, I'm not really going to be doing as much cleaning as I normally do or cooking. I'm going to figure out how I'm going to eat because I'm not stopping at the gas station. I'm not eating all the bad stuff. I'm going to figure out, am I going to go purchase my lunches from like a meal prep place, something that's healthy, or am I going to schedule out a day where I can meal prep and I can throw some stuff together? I have found that if you go to Sam's Club, you can buy their pre-made grilled chicken in their cooler section and then pair that with some of their like bulked broccoli that's already cut up and sliced. You can just put that into a to-go container with a thing of hummus or guacamole, and that's a beautiful lunch to eat on the go. I know some people might be like, "Oh, that's disgusting." Well, listen, I can't do gluten and I'm lactose intolerant. So my palate, my everything has changed. So I have to be very, very careful. And I just find that that's what works well for me. And I'm able to eat it. And I'm not spending all of my hard earned money on gas station food and going out to eat because that money needs to be reinvested back into the business. And I make sure that my counselor, my therapist, all of the above is on deck. Okay. They're ready to rock. I let them know that I can't do regular scheduled appointments during that time because I don't got time for all that. But they know that if I need to reach out, I will. That's important because sometimes you just need to work through some stuff, okay? Sometimes you just need to work through some stuff. And then after spring rush is done, how are you going to recover? You going to sleep? What are you going to do? You just plan some recovery time. If you want to go on a vacation with your family, if you want to take a little bit of time to rest and relax, it's important to schedule that. So please do that, whatever that looks like for you. And Jim, Mr. King of Pooh himself, he likes to take a vacation before spring rush. He told me to do that. I never do that. I never, because we just don't. We just don't. I think afterwards, I'm like, oh my gosh, I need a vacation. It's very dramatic. Uh, and then after you're done resting and relaxing a little bit, you need to learn from Spring Rush. You need to look back at it and hopefully you were tracking the data, which you should be tracking your data. And if you're not, if you have a CRM, if you're using something like Jabber, that tracks all your data for you. So then you can just go through the reports and you can just look at everything to see what's going on. But see, how many quotes did you get? How many people approved? What's that ratio look like? How many one dog cleans did you do or two dog cleans so you can figure out like where your sweet spot is, where's your money maker at. A lot of times it's the two dogs. The two dogs for me seems to be the money maker. You can also see how many people you converted, why they didn't convert. Were you weak on your sales, on your pitch to try to convert them? Did you follow up? You can definitely keep following up with people and try to get them back on your schedule and be like, "Hey, Mrs. Smith, this is Erica with Croup and Spoop and Scoopin'. We performed your spring clean on March 27th. I hope that everything went well. We really enjoyed serving you. If you were interested in maintaining your yard for weekly service, we could do that for you for $87 a month, and we come out one time a week. And we're typically in your area on Tuesday." I would send something like that out to them. Call them, email them, text message them. You have all that information because you collected all of that. You collected their email, you collected their phone number, you collected their name, you know where they live, they got the address. You have all the points, you have all of the contact information. There's no excuse. There's no excuse for you not to be following up. Erica, there's no excuse for you not to be following up. Take my own advice. So you want to learn from that. And then let's talk about pricing. So we recovered. Let's kind of backtrack a little bit. I wanted to save this one to the end. Let's talk about pricing a little bit more. I know we talked about it in the beginning. Pricing can be difficult. Some people price per minute. Some people price per bucket. I know Jim, he prices per bucket. So it's $45 for the first bucket. And then I believe it's $20 after for each additional bucket. It's either 20 or 25. Sorry. Jim, if you're listening to this, I do apologize. So it's 45 for the first. I do know that. And either 20 or 25 for each additional bucket after that. And he's had great success with that. I know people that do it per minute, they've had great success. I do it flat rate and I've had great success with it. And so it's just whatever your flavor is. Even though I used to do these cleans for $50 and then I went up to $70 and then I went up to $90 and now they're up to 110 because I've lived and learned. Now, is my price firm? Is it always firm? No, it's not always firm. There's always the person that really just stopped cleaning in February because it really got too cold or they broke their hip or something happened. So there's room to negotiate, there's room to give people discounts, elderly discounts. There's the occasional $50 clean, I'll do that. Or sometimes if somebody wants to sign up and they're going to pay for their first initial clean, which is a spring clean, and then they're going to pay for their weekly service up front, I'll give them a 20% discount. Heck yeah, I will. Heck yeah, I will. If they're going to pay all of that up front, discount, baby. Why not? I'll give you a little bit of a rundown of how my prices are. So the one dog, standard size yard, 1/8 of an acre, that spring clean is starting at 110. Okay? You hear me? Two dog, spring clean, standard size yard is starting at 155. I really don't like talking about my prices too much because they change. Like I'm still getting comments on videos back from like 2019 where people are telling me that I need to raise my rates. And I'm like, yeah, I know. I know. They've been raised since then. But I figured I would just kind of give you an idea of like where my prices are. So if you're kind of confused, if you're like, my prices are low, I'm afraid that I can't raise them because I'm not going to get any cleans. Just know that these cleans are nasty and people will pay the prices because they understand that they're disgusting and they don't want to do it. And because they don't want to do it, they're willing to pay somebody else to do it. So they're willing to pay a higher dollar to get it taken care of, especially if you're going to take care of it fast and you're going to take care of it efficiently and you're going to do it in a professional way. And then for scheduling spring cleans, I personally like to book each spring clean out for an hour. It's an hour time slot because there's been times where we've run into cleans that are much larger or much smaller. And so I know for me, for my hand, I really can't do more than 4 or 5 spring cleans a day just because I do have tendonitis in my wrist and in my elbow because this is a physical job. Because I am the owner and because I'm doing other stuff and I'm distracted, I don't like to put any more cleans on myself. If I have a partner, somebody's coming out with me, and it is a clear day. I don't have any weekly cleans. We're just out there doing spring cleans. We've done 10. We've done 10 in one day, and that was doable. It was a busy day, but we were able, we were still able to take a lunch. We still took a little lunchy lunch. But yeah, 2 cleans, 10 for the day. That went well. And then if you have a full route, if you're doing 25 houses, 30 houses a day, you might not be able to pepper in any spring cleans that day. So if you're not doing cleans on the weekends, get the spring cleans done during the weekend in the areas that we're already servicing before I take further out. So during a springtime, I will do out of service area cleans, but my ones that are on route that are closer in the area are priority first, and the ones that are scheduled out a little further, I schedule out a little further because if they go find another company, it's fine. It's not a big deal, but I want to make sure that if we are super, super busy, there's a priority because I only have so much staff. We only have so much availability. If I have to choose between three cleans, sorry. If I have to choose between 3 cleans and I only have one available spot, one's an out of service area, one's a one-time clean, which is a spring clean, and then the other one is a spring clean that's going to convert into a weekly service and it's en route. I'm going to service that weekly service one, the person that's getting the clean that will convert. I'm going to take care of that one first before I do the one-off clean or the out of service area. So you definitely want to have your priorities in order if your availability is limited. Whew. Wow. I think I got everything out of my brain that was on my brain. This is a great time. This is a great time in business. It's a stressful time. There's a lot of opportunity, and be proud of yourself. Be excited. Get ready. Gear up for it. Try not to let it stress you out too much. Have fun with it, and scoop that poop and bag that loot. Until next time, bye.